So today I'll be talking about another experience from a Lagos Matchmaker member, and today's topic is meeting, not keeping. Okay, so a lady sent me a message a couple of weeks ago, and then she was just talking about how she has met like over 18 to 20 people, and it's just not working out for her. And so I asked her, like, did you meet these 20 people and decide that, oh, they're not for you? And she says no, that she met about 20 people and they all just didn't want to talk to her any further. Like, so after the first conversation or chat, they just stopped talking to her, stopped chatting her. And some people actually, slowly ghost her out. So she's sending messages and they're like, yes, no. So they're being polite, but they're slowly ghosting her out. So that's why I decided to talk about this topic, meeting, not keeping. Okay, so let me explain. So before I explain, let me just finish up her story. So she was just under the, she believed that they were just not moving on further with her because she was a single mom. And I was like, no, majority of the people getting married on the platform are single moms. One of the people she's talking about eventually got engaged to a single mom. So I was like, that's definitely not the issue. And that's the thing with dating. Sometimes when you're being ghosted or people don't respond as they should, you actually come up with your own reason in your mind, because even if you ask the person, people are never that honest to tell you. So if like you went on the first date with a guy and he was smelling and he starts chatting with you and you're not interested, most people would just give that one word answer like, hey, how are you doing? I'm fine. Do you want to hang out today? No, I'm so busy. They try to ghost you out slowly as opposed to just telling you plainly, hey, you smell, and that's why I don't want to hang out with you anymore, because no one wants to be mean. So this obviously leads people to having their own reasons, for why people might have ghosted them. Eventually I asked her, like, do you mind us asking and trying to find out what really happened? And she didn't mind, because obviously some people do mind, but she was okay with it. A majority of the people said she was a bad conversationalist. I'm hoping that's correct. Yeah, a bad conversationalist. Like, it just wasn't flowing, when they were chatting with her and everything. So I gave her back this feedback and she was defensive as expected. Most people are defensive when you tell them something about themselves. If you tell me today, I do this, I do that, I'm going to try to explain it first and be like, no, it's not this. Everyone is usually defensive. But being defensive and being able to listen and still think about what you've been told is really helpful. So she was like, no, my friends say I'm really interesting. I've never heard that. I don't think that's the reason. They're all just saying something. So I was like, if 20 people ask a question and 10 of them say the same thing, you should probably look into it. So if you ask the question and say, hey, how does my eyes look? And like 5 people say it looks horrible and 2 say it looks okay, I will really look into that 5. I will take that 5 more seriously. I mean, it's like survey and stuff. Anyway, so I ended up asking her, okay, do you know what? Send a picture of your screen, a screenshot of your chat, which she did. And then I could see where both parties were coming from, mostly from the other side, because a lot of questions, like they would ask, how was your day? And she would say, fine. Have you eaten today? And she would say, yes. So she was just answering the questions, but it was one word answers. It could definitely be seen as boring, but to her, that wasn't boring. But to people, it could have been, because most people might answer that question differently. If you asked me, like, have you eaten? And the person would respond, yes, I have. I had pounded yam and soup. What about you? They would throw the question back to you just so it keeps the conversation flowing. But she, in her own way, would say, yes, I have, And the other person would be like, okay, so what did you have? And then she's like, pounded yam and soup. And the person is like, okay, what next do I ask? It gets really boring when you keep having to ask all the questions. And it's like you're just by yourself trying to push the conversation. If you're doing that with like 20 people, of course 10 of them are going to fall out. People don't have that patience and people want someone that's interesting. Anyway, before I go off the topic, so that was what happened in her situation. So what I meant by meeting, not keeping, is that dating platforms like Lagos Matchmaker, we actually help you in meeting people. So I would say the platform is not for everybody. We help you in meeting people, but not keeping people, because it's your personality, it's just you that actually gets to keep that person. If you're badly behaved, like you're really rude, there's no magic. People are going to introduce you to people. You're going to meet people, but majority of people wouldn't want to be kept by you or stay, because of your attitude and your personality or your character. So that's what I meant by we help you in meeting people, but not keeping people. Fortunately, you can ask for advice, and you can always, if you're not defensive, you can learn from your advice, you can learn from your experiences, especially if you're having that sort of, people would call it bad luck, and it's not bad luck. People might call it bad luck when they keep meeting people but not being able to keep people, meaning that they start talking to you and after a while they just kind of ghost you or are not really showing that much interest as they showed at the beginning. And it might not, well, I don't think it's bad luck, but it could be something you might want to look into. And luckily for you, you could ask for advice. You could ask your WhatsApp handler if you're a VIP member for, like feedback, because people are not as direct about the reason why they might be ghosting you to you, but they would definitely tell a third party. They could definitely tell their friend, like, oh, that guy was smelling, that's why I couldn't hang out with him anymore. But they would never tell it to the guy because nobody wants to be seen as mean. Being defensive is expected, but while you're being defensive, when you get home or, anything, just calm down and think about what the person said, especially if a lot of people are saying the same thing. And then think of adjusting your attitude. We're all like trying to be better human beings. We're trying to, be a better version of ourselves every day. So it doesn't hurt to change one or two things. Lagos Matchmaker is a platform for people that might not have time to go out and meet people, or they go out and they're shy, so they can't necessarily meet people, because that's what we do. We help you meet people. So Lagos Matchmaker helps you meet people, but it's your character and your personality that keeps people. So no matter what we do in the connection, you have to still seal the deal with your character and personality.